Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an all-new Artsbeat TV and radio from Westfield Community Programming, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media partners at Southwick Community Television and Agawam Media. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and today we get a chance to chat with Eddie Zitka, who, along with his pal Ken Comia, founded the K&E Theater Group. Their opening season production, which is just about to start, is called Spring Awakening. It's the Tony Award-winning musical, and it's so appropriate because as I look out the window right now from our studio, it feels like spring's awakening. Eddie, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mark.
You've got a great season planned. You've got Spring Awakening, which is an award winner, and then you're going back to the musical theater canon of Stephen Sondheim, which launched K&E Theater Group a long time ago, and kind of set you on a path of recognition that's kind of unique to some of the area theater companies that have started up. So let's talk a little bit about Spring Awakening for people who don't know anything about it or have never seen it. I know that it was based on a play by Franz Wedekind, an old German play, and when it opened on Broadway, it launched the careers of Jonathan Groff, who's starring as Bobby Darin on Broadway right now, Leah Michele, who went on to Glee and then Funny Girl, and John Gallagher Jr., who's had a great career in theater. Tell us about Spring Awakening.
We were looking for a show that would reach a lot of different people, a lot of different audiences, and Ken randomly said to me one day, you know what about Spring Awakening? And the thing I love about Spring Awakening the most is that not only is it so relevant, but as the creative in it, it definitely allows you to have a lot of creative license as far as making it your own. So I really, really appreciate that and that it was written that way. So yeah, relevancy was one of our biggest contributing factors to choosing that for our season.
And you primarily direct and choreograph most of the shows. What resonates for you as a director and choreographer about Spring Awakening? So when Ken showed you this musical, you said, I've got to direct this.
Well, we saw it back in 2006 when it first came out. Unfortunately, we missed the Deaf West production. But seeing other productions that have happened, you really get the chance to kind of explore your own creativity. The show is written where the music is actually a device to go into the characters' heads rather than pushing maybe the story along that is written with the book. And so, you know, in the original, they pulled out microphones to do that. And so it allows a lot of creative license, like I was saying. It gave me the opportunity to kind of like broaden my creative outlook, which I thought was really exciting.
Your creative outlook in some of the shows that you've directed, you've really taken a lot of chances with the programming that you put together. I mean, you've done Sondheim, you've done Promises, which is a musical primarily known for its Burt Bacharach, Hal David score, with a Neil Simon book, which is a complete 180 from Assassins or Sweeney Todd or something like that. And you've also done works during Pride season that really stretch the audience's take on the LGBTQ experience. So your directing career has taken a lot of twists and turns along the way. You're going to move back to Sondheim with Sunday in the Park with George. What attracts you to that?
What attracts me to Sunday in the Park with George? I think that it is a stunning score, first of all, with two very complex characters. That really resonates with me. I love helping my actors kind of like find their way through the complexities of each character, while collaborating to make it their own, and how to connect them personally to the characters. So that attracts me to it. I also love that it's never been done really around here, although it has started to explode a little bit in the Massachusetts, Connecticut area. Um, but we at Caney Theater Group, we like to bring shows that people don't get the chance to see very often to the area. And so this one has always been on the list, and now is the right time.
When you started K&E Theater Group, did you originally start with the idea you were going to just present bold musicals that weren't done in the area, or did that kind of fall into place as you became producers?
Really, there's two ways that we kind of look at it. We wanted to bring shows like you said that people hadn't seen or didn't get the chance to see. Last season, I mean, we did Ride the Cyclone, we did Xana Don't, and then we brought Hedwig and the Angry Inch back, Promises, Promises. These are all shows that don't really get a chance around here, and so we brought those in. But also, if we do a classic, I like to make sure that I have something conceptually that kind of makes it its own, makes it the KETG version, so to say, or the Eddie version, I guess. Because I think, why do it if it's going to be a carbon copy? I want to do something unique to me.
How did you get involved in theater in the beginning?
Oh, my grandmother. She used to take me to theater when I was like 2 years old, like at the old Paramount Theater and Symphony Hall. And then I started dancing at age 6 and was teaching. And so I've always been sort of in the arts a little bit. And then I moved to New York and I did a bunch of theater. I did the national tour of The Wedding Singer. And then moved to Florida, worked at Disney as a contracted performer for 2 years. But Ken and I had always wanted to start a theater company and kind of, like I said, bring unique theater to Western Massachusetts, and that was the time.
When you pick shows, I mean, you're well known as a director. You've got a great performance resume, and what sets you apart from a lot of the other directors in the area theater community is you're also a first-class choreographer. When you're looking at a show like Spring Awakening, or you're looking at Sunday in the Park with George, is it Eddie the actor that's looking at the play? Is it Eddie the director that's looking at the play, or Eddie the choreographer that's looking at the play?
I think it depends. Um, Last season with Ride the Cyclone, Xana Don't, and Promises, Promises, the unique titles caught us. I've always wanted to choreograph Turkey Lurkey Time, so that's I think that was the choreographer in me wanting to do that. But because there was so much choreography last season, we decided to do two shows this year that didn't necessarily have an overabundance of choreography to give my little choreographer brain a rest. But I do love a show that is complex character-wise. I love a show that allows, like I said, for creative license. I love a show that gives me the ability to collaborate with the brilliant actors that we get to come and do our shows for us. They're all so gifted, and they all bring such a unique quality and mind to the characters that we're building together, which is so appreciated in the room.
You want to talk a little bit about some of the actors and creatives that are involved in Spring Awakening?
Sure. So our musical director is Devi Badea, and Devi was our musical director for Hedwig and the Angry Inch when we did that back in 2022 and last year for our fundraiser. So she's amazing, so gifted, so in tune with Spring Awakening. I couldn't have found a better collaborator to do this particular show with. It's personal to her as well, which also helps. But just the way that she breaks everything down, just so wonderful. This cast is stacked with local talent. Some of them have worked with us before. Some of them are actually coming from like middle of Connecticut to do the show. They travel here 4 days a week to come to rehearsal. They have not worked with us before, but I can't wait to work with them again because they're all so brilliant.
And how can people get tickets? And what are the performance dates of Spring Awakening?
Yes, you can get tickets on our website, which is ketg.org. The show dates are March 28th to the 30th and April 3rd to the 5th at Northampton Center for the Arts, which is 33 Holly Street. We have actually double show days on Saturdays, but take a look at the times. Our Sundays are at 4 o'clock, so it's a little different than it normally is. And it's a limited amount of seats. It's only the spot only holds 78 seats. So tickets, once they start moving, they move pretty quickly.
Yeah, so, I mean, as in all cases, and the Center for the Arts in Northampton is a great place to go see a show because before or after, there's plenty of places to go eat and drink.
Oh, absolutely. It's also run by the most amazing women. So yeah, come in. Sometimes they have stuff happening before, but if not, I mean, there's so many restaurants and bars and bubble tea and mochi, donuts, like all sorts of fun stuff that you can do before and after the performance.
So they don't pick the food. There isn't a Spring Awakening menu where everything is spring stuff that awakens your senses, so to speak, and a different menu for Sunday in the Park with George.
No, we actually do have those. Julia Bissell, who was an actress that did The Wild Party with us, started a macaroon business, and we have had her come in starting with Xana Don't, I believe, and she comes in and she brings in menus of macaroons specifically for each show.
Eddie, there was a question I wanted to ask you, and I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. During the pandemic, you launched a Zoom meeting with all of the leaders of all of the community theaters in the area. It was the first time that had ever been done. And the various artistic people of the community theaters got to talk about the seasons that they had expected to do or were hoping to do when the pandemic ended. And it's the only time that I am aware of that all the community theaters in the area got together and were united in terms of talking about the importance of the community theaters in our region. Have you ever repeated that, and what impact did that have for you as the organizer of that?
We haven't done it since. I do keep in touch with all of the heads of each place to make sure that we are all very much aware of our seasons, so there's no overlaps. I try my best to reach out to everybody to make sure that, we have an abundance of shows that aren't repeats, because, that puts people into direct competition. You don't want to do that. We're a group of humans just trying to create art and bring art to the local community. I have wanted to do some sort of concert where we bring in all of the different theater companies and kind of promote our seasons through concert. So that's something that's always been on the back burner, but I mean, I've been going nonstop since December 2023. So after Spring Awakening it's my first break that's more than a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that sounds great. Speaking of breaks, we need to take a break to acknowledge our underwriters that make Artsbeat and our other programming here possible. We will do that, then we'll come back to chat more with Eddie Zitka from K&E Theater Group. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardy siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you've missed a part of today's program or you want to watch it again or share it with friends, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio. And Eddie has been on our program many times, so you can go back and find some of the chats that we've had over the years. They're all archived on YouTube. Eddie, do you on your wish list for seasons after this upcoming one, how many plays and musicals do you have in mind?
My 3-page list that I have on my computer. Yeah, a good amount. A lot of stuff that's not been done before that I saw, in the 20 years that I've been going to see theater in New York. I think Into the Woods is my number one, though.
You go to a lot, you and Eddie, and you post on Facebook all the time. You show the playbills of the theaters that you're going to see in the area. What are some of the community theaters that you've seen that you think that the quality or the vision that they have really excites you?
I mean, we have so many in Western Massachusetts. We are so lucky to be surrounded by the amount of theater and creatives that we have. What have I seen recently? I just saw a chorus line at the Opera House Players, which never gets done. So it was really amazing to see so many.
Isn't it amazing that a chorus line turns 50 years old this year?
That's crazy. I'm excited because I think Goodspeed's doing it, aren't they?
Yeah, Goodspeed's doing it with Rob Ruggiero from TheaterWorks directing it. I mean, Chorus Line was in my coming of age in theater. It makes me feel very old.
Chorus Line is the one that got away from me. As a dancer, I never got the opportunity to do the show, and it rings so true to me. I was injured in 2009, and it kind of took a little bit of my dance career away from me. And so that whole section, like with What I Did for Love and all of that, just, yeah, that hits pretty hard.
When you got injured, were you injured dancing?
I was doing Singing in the Rain at the Ogunquit Playhouse. And I did a little tiny jump that I've done 1,000 times, heard a pop while I was on stage, and finished, and then did another show after that. I did All Shook Up after that, right after, while injured, and then had 10 months of like therapy before I could start dancing again.
Did that change your perspective on performing?
It did. It was the first time when I grew up dancing. I mean, I would just throw my body around. I would, flip and leap and turn and crash my body all over the place. And so when that happened, you kind of take a step back and you're like, wait a second, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to dance my whole life. And so, that's when you start to focus on other things, I guess. Like I still danced and I still do dance. But, I focused more on my singing and acting and kind of being a little bit more like focused on the creation of theater and staging and lighting and things like that. And I think that's helped me a lot since KETG started to help me with my direction and all the other creative things that I have to do on top of that.
It's funny because as a dancer, when you go into it, you know that your lifespan is dance as a career is a limited one. My mother was a dancer and retired to have children. She was in her late 20s, and that ended her dance career essentially. And we had earlier the artistic leaders of Chester Theater, and Michelle Ong Hendrick was a figure skater whose career ended early and went into theater. Some dancers retire from active dancing and go into choreography or stage direction and things like that, but a lot of them know in the get-go that by the time they're in their 30s or late 30s, their career as a dancer is pretty much over. Did you have that in mind when you started, or did getting injured kind of take you by surprise?
I think getting injured, I got injured in 2009, so I was still pretty young in my dance career. Um, and so before that, I mean, like I said, I could take my leg and pull it all the way over here. Like my flexibility was, nuts. So I felt invincible. So it was that, I think that injury is what really made me sit back and be like, whoa, hold up for a second. This is not gonna last. Unless you're Cheetah Rivera.
Yeah, and well, she lasted forever, it seems.
Forever, they're out there. They take really good care of their bodies, and they focus so hard on, I think, ballet and technique, and just making sure that their bodies are warm and in tune. Like, it's super important.
It is, and when you see some, I mean, I was in New York this fall, and Donna McKechnie, who was Michael Bennett's muse, he made her famous in a chorus line. She had done she did the TikTok number in Company, and she was the lead dancer in Turkey Lurkey Time in Promises, Promises. She's in her 80s, and she's playing Madame Morrible in Wicked. And you know that it's got to be her technique and her constant taking dance class and everything else that gives her this longevity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all watched Turkey Lurkey Time. We saw what her neck did. So, I mean, she had to warm that body up to be able to do that and still move. Yeah, and I mean, there's even videos of her doing parts of Turkey Lurkey Time in her 60s. Like, it's amazing.
It is, and people should go to YouTube and search for Turkey Lurkey Time from Promises, Promises, and see one of the best 5 minutes of musical theater choreography ever created.
I mean, I watch it every Thanksgiving. It's literally, I have a shirt that says it's Turkey Lurkey Time. Like, that's how much I love this show.
At the end of every Artsbeat, I play a piece of music from the Broadway canon. Last week, I took something from Boop the musical, the song Around the Corner. And every year at Thanksgiving, I play Turkey Lurkey Time. But when I searched it out on YouTube, I found a clip of 3 guys in a community theater production doing it, which was so hysterically funny. And they were able to do all of the Michael Bennett choreography.
I'm not surprised.
What choreographers in the musical theater canon influenced or inspired you?
Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett as a choreographer there's so much brilliance behind it. Specifically chorus line. I mean, whoever thought going across the floor could look so good? Obviously Bob Fosse from an acting and an isolation standpoint. I think that he is brilliant. From a director standpoint, right now my obsession is Michael Arden. Michael Arden, I don't know how he does it, but we saw once on this island, and most recently maybe Happy Ending, and he just knows how to put such a creative stamp on everything that he touches.
I'm in love with Maybe Happy Ending. I saw it in New York and just loved it. And, when you got your fingers crossed for the upcoming Tony Awards, I sure hope it takes home a slew of awards.
I mean, I think it could. It could. There's a lot coming out this year. There's big splashy musicals like Smash and Boop. And then you've got smaller things like Maybe Happy Ending and Operation Mincemeat and Redwood, which I'm seeing tonight, actually. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but maybe Happy Ending.
You'll have to let me know how Redwood was, and there's a huge tree right out in front of our studio. If you'd like to come and dance a segment from Redwood on it, I'll be glad to.
Climb up it.
I'll be glad to film that.
I'll just hang off it and sing upside down. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Remind us again about Spring Awakening and the dates and how people can get their tickets.
Absolutely. Spring Awakening is coming to 33 Holly Street at Northampton Center for the Arts. Dates are March 28th to the 30th and April 3rd to the 5th. And you can get tickets at our website, which is ketg.org.
And you can follow you guys on Facebook and Instagram and all kinds of social media too, right?
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
So are you doing TikTok videos of rehearsals and all that? People get a sneak peek?
Not yet with Spring Awakening, but our social media manager, she likes to film a lot of backstage shenanigans. So Promises Promises and Ride the Cyclone and Xana Don't, you will definitely see some past ones. So I don't know what she has planned for this show, but she's also playing Vendela in Spring Awakening, so she will get all the backstage fun.
Eddie, if somebody gave the theater group $10 million for a season at any venue, what would be your dream show that you could do on a large scale?
Into the Woods.
Into the Woods. So
100% Into the Woods.
100%.
And maybe bring Cabaret back, because I really loved Cabaret.
Eddie Zitka from K&E Theater Group. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to chat with you.
Same with you, Mark. I love our conversations.
Yes, and give my best to your partner in crime, Ken Comia, who helped arrange today's interview.
I will do so.
And this wraps up this edition of Artsbeat. Actually, it doesn't. We have another segment coming up after we take a break for underwriting announcements. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. I'm Mark Auerbach. Stay with us for another half hour of Artsbeat.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. This half hour, we're up in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, at Barrington Stage Company with the artistic director, Alan Paul. If you didn't get to see this season's 10 by 10 New Play Festival, which wrapped up an extended run last weekend, you missed something really incredible. But Barrington Stage is going to take a couple of weeks off to get its season underway. And as soon as late May rolls around, there'll be a summer and fall full of theater plays and musicals at Barrington Stage. Alan, it's good to see you.
Great to be here.
So you've announced a really stellar season of interesting works, and the first big play is Camelot, a musical which you directed before in Washington, D.C., and it got incredible reviews when you did it there. What made you decide to bring Camelot to Barrington Stage, and what does it mean to you to have the opportunity to restage it?
Well, I think Camelot is really a piece about the birth of democracy, because King Arthur, that idea in the Dark Ages of a round table where everyone had an equal voice, was revolutionary. And I did it in 2018 in Washington in a time that I felt we needed to hear that wisdom. And I felt going into the summer that we may need to hear it again. I mean, there are amazing lines in that piece, like compassion is not weakness, and it's about how might does not always equal right. And I just wanted to do that. I mean, I had an incredible journey with the piece in Washington. I really felt in Washington, it was like being in the room where it happens, as they say in Hamilton, because at the opening night, I had Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Breyer, and I had Ben Carson and Rudy Giuliani there too. And I thought, oh my God, you're in the middle of Washington, you're speaking to everyone. and mean what you say. And I just love the musical also. I think that, Barrington Stage has never done a musical by Lerner and Lowe. I mean, those songs, If Ever I Would Leave You, C'est Moi, I Loved You Once in Silence, Camelot. I mean, they're just the top of the golden age of musical comedy. So I'm thrilled to do that.
I was a toddler when Camelot opened, but I remember growing up, my parents always played the original cast recording and talked about the Kennedys. And somehow this musical was linked to the era of Jack and Jackie Kennedy. And as I grew up and got involved in theater, I've only seen one production of it, and it was a tour that came through Hartford about 10 or 15 years ago, and it was scaled down. There was, I think, 3 people in the chorus, and the Lancelot accompanied himself on guitar, playing If Ever I Would Leave It. And I thought, wow, the score of this musical is incredible and needs to be heard. The book had a lot of issues and problems, and maybe because this production re-envisioned it and all of that. How are you taking the original production in doing this, or have you revamped it in any way?
It's totally revamped. I was not allowed to add any new writing to the piece, but I was able to draw from every single version of it. And every time it's done, someone comes in and tinkers with it. All of the writers had heart problems in 1961, Lerner, Lowe, and Moss Hart. So they never really got a version of this fully together. But I was also able to go to the Library of Congress and pull from screenplays that Alan J. Lerner had written that never made it, different drafts. And there are funny things that were in the original script that I changed. Like in the original, Arthur gets the idea for the round table and Guinevere is just sitting there knitting and agreeing with him. And I got permission to flip it so that Guinevere gets the idea for the round table and Arthur goes, oh, isn't that nice? And she becomes more of a political operative, in the couple. And I've made a ton of changes as the night goes on because I felt there were things to bring out of it if you're going to make it about democracy and the process of a government. And it's trimmed down quite a bit. I've cut songs. I cut Take Me to the Fair, which the leading lady was really angry about in Washington. And flipped the order of things, and it's a malleable piece. So you're going to see a whole new version of Camelot, not with a reduced company, but with a full company and an orchestra.
I'm looking forward to that. You also have some wonderful other shows that are coming. So why don't you kind of describe the season that you put together for 2025?
Well, it's so funny. You put a season together and you have no idea that there's anything linking the plays. Like there wasn't a conscious choice to make a theme, but when I look back at it, I'm calling it my American Icon season because we've got a play about LeBron James called King James, which is about male friendship, bonding over basketball, and 2 guys' love of LeBron in Cleveland. I'm so excited because we're bringing in a play about the life of Joan Rivers called Joan by Danny Goldstein, which is, about the tumultuous things that happened to her and her daughter Melissa and her husband Edgar behind the scenes of Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show and all that, and the tragedy that happened to her husband, about her emergence in Greenwich Village on the club scene, and then it's interspersed with pieces from her actual act throughout the years. We're doing a play called Eisenhower, This Piece of Ground to start the season, where the great John Rubinstein, who you know as the original Pippin, plays our 34th president looking back on his life, on World War II, on the momentous things that happened. And as a companion piece to that, we're doing the regional premiere of a play that was done last summer at Lincoln Center called N.A., which is about N, who is Nancy Pelosi, and A, who is AOC. And I'm fascinated by the play. It's not about Democrat, Republican, anything. It's about generational politics and how an older person and a younger person, what their conflicts are in terms of governing, in terms of philosophy, point of view, and how they influence each other. And I think it's fascinating to think of that now because, those 2 figures still continue to dominate the Democratic Party. So I think, that with Camelot and with Eisenhower is a kind of a really interesting exploration of leadership. And then in the season, we're doing a world premiere musical called Fuzzy, which is a musical with puppets, which I'm really thrilled about. It's not Avenue Q, but it's about a writer who's taking care of his ailing mother. He's named Fuzzy, and he's a puppet, and his mother is named Muzzy. And it's a very whimsical piece. It's pretty serious, even though it's going to be funny, about life and death and writing. And it's the kind of thing that you will only see at Barrington Stage. And then we're going to close off the summer or the fall with a play called the Yom Kippur Play, which is a really interesting exploration of Judaism in a synagogue in the pandemic, and what happens when the synagogue is threatened by some external anti-Semitism that happened quite a lot in the pandemic, and it's of course happening now. And it's by Matru Haft-Ali, and it's a really different perspective on modern Jewish life, and I'm really happy to be doing it during the Jewish holidays in the fall.
That sounds great. And for details on all of this, you should go to Barrington Stage's website. It's barringtonstageco.org, and get descriptions of the various plays and musicals. And you can order series tickets and all good stuff. I wanted to say that King James, I just saw a couple of weeks ago at TheaterWorks in Hartford. And what an incredibly wonderful play that is. And I thought it was about basketball. I mean, as I walked in, and I really wasn't prepped to see it. And I thought, well, it's another play about basketball. But it really was more about two guys connecting over their love of sports. And so even if you're not a basketball fan, it's not about LeBron James, although his playing plays a center, kind of like a backdrop to these two guys that are connecting. It's a beautiful, beautiful play.
And we're bringing that production from Hartford TheaterWorks to Barrington Stage. So I was thrilled to see it also. I think it's about male friendship, and it's about, what it means to have a hero that you believe in that disappoints you, and how you deal with it also. And I think it's a play that the husbands can bring their wives to at the theater.
Yeah. And the Primary Trust, which you launched last season, is just about to open at TheaterWorks in Hartford with two of the original cast members that were involved. This relationship that you have with TheaterWorks, you also have with the Roundhouse. These co-productions that you're doing, does it help each theater? What is the reason that you guys do this?
Well, I when I heard that Rob Ruggiero and TheaterWorks were doing King James with Roundhouse Theater, I knew that it would be a production of the highest quality, and I wanted to get on board. And I thought, rather than start from scratch, why not bring these great artists into our space too? And that's an amazing thing. It happened for me also. I flew to LA or to Costa Mesa in November to see the world premiere of Joan, the Joan Rivers play. I had read it and I loved the writing. And then when I saw the production itself, I thought, this is so fabulous. I would love to bring these artists and this set to Barrington. And so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to do that. And I think that you're seeing all over the country that theaters are partnering with each other. Of course, it helps the theater save money sometimes, but I think the partnerships are really a valuable thing with other artists. And I hope we'll do more of it. And in the case of Primary Trust, we did the production, and it's not that production is going to Hartford, but many elements of it are. And I think that production will be enriched because of the performance of Justin Weeks, who's going to be playing the lead, who was pretty phenomenal for us, and he gets a second crack at it. And I'm excited to see it again. I love that play.
I'm looking forward to having them on my program. I thought Primary Trust was such an incredible play, and it thrilled me when we took our program up to live stream the Berkshire Theater Critics Awards, and Barrington Stage and Primary Trust took so many awards. It's a brilliant play.
I was thrilled. I saw it a year and a half ago in New York off Broadway, and I was the first person to call the agent to get the rights for the play. When I tried to talk about it a year ago, I couldn't put into words what I thought was so beautiful about the tone of the play and how it captured loneliness. And everyone thought I was kind of crazy to do it because they just didn't know it. And then we had the good fortune that the play won the Pulitzer Prize. And then everyone wanted to do it. And I was just so thrilled for its success. And I think it's so important to have the work of new writers and new voices in the theater. And that was a writer I didn't know. I was thrilled about that play.
I'm kind of excited about the play Joan because we all have a public perception of Joan Rivers hosting the Tonight Show or doing her shtick and her stand-up comedy and things like that. But the woman behind Joan Rivers was very much different than the public Joan Rivers.
Well, she was, I think we're fascinated by her because if you look at TV shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that's based on a version of young Joan Rivers. And then, of course, if you look at Hacks, it's really a version of the older Joan Rivers. But she went through quite a lot in her life. And there was a lot of grit and tenacity. And she's the survivor of, her husband had death by suicide. And she had to make a very difficult decision at a certain point when her TV show was failing because Barry Diller said either I fire your husband, who's the lead producer on the show, or we get rid of the show. And she was stuck in the middle of that. And of course, she chose, her husband over the show. And she dealt with the repercussions of that for the rest of her life. She's a very generous woman, and a lot of there beyond the comedy.
I had a little interaction with her when I was in college. I went to American University in D.C. for my undergraduate, and she had written a play called Fun City, which was doing a pre-Broadway tryout at the National Theater in Washington. And the show moved on to New York and folded very quickly. But while they were in Washington, they were doing an extensive amount of rewrites, and she needed people to type on carbon and mimeograph the new script for the things. So she called the theater department, or somebody called the theater department at AU, and a colleague of mine and I, who worked in the box office, were allowed to retype things, and then I took the bus down to the National Theater and handed it to somebody, and I got to meet her, and I didn't even know who she was at the time, but years later, seeing her on television and all, I just thought she was an amazing talent beyond the shtick that she did.
Listen, there is no one alive today who has filled the void of her presence in the comedy scene because she told the truth. She was a truth teller, and I think that's what makes her so peerless and powerless and singular. And also, she had a complicated relationship to like the Mark Twain Prize, which she never got. She was never fully on the inside because she was dangerous, and that's also what we loved about her.
We're going to take a real fast break to acknowledge our underwriters here that make Artsbeat possible. We'll be back to chat more with Alan Paul at Barrington Stage. But while we're taking that break, go to their website, barringtonstageco.org, and check out the Barrington Stage 2025 season. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you missed a part of today's program, or you want to watch it again or share it with your friends, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio. I'm glad to have Alan Paul from the Barrington Stage Company as our guest this half hour. Alan has been the artistic director for a couple of years now, and every year he comes on board to preview the season. Alan, now you've been here a couple of years. What have you learned about Barrington Stage's audiences that you didn't know when you got here?
Well, I think they're pretty adventurous. I mean, I think that they're an intelligent audience and they love to be a part of exciting new work. And that's what I'm most excited about this summer is that besides Camelot, which is a pretty significant revival, everything else is a new play. I mean, it may not be a world premiere. We're going to have two world premieres, but everything else has been written in the last year or two. And I want Barrington to be a home of new writing, of a place where writers want to premiere their most exciting work, a place where an audience can see something for the first time and to be a part of it. I think it's so important that we're a place where living writers are celebrated and where their work is developed. And I think audiences feel that too.
When we talked the first time, you had said that you had come from the Washington, D.C. area, and the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts was new to you. What have you discovered in your time here that you didn't know about the Berkshires and Western Mass, and what makes you glad to be living up here?
Well, in Washington, if you got 10 inches of snow, you'd be in your house for a week. Here, if there are 10 inches of snow, it's plowed in an hour and everyone's at the bar. I think there's a hardiness to the people that choose to live in the Berkshires year round. I see it, at the 10 by 10. We had nights early in the run when there was a snowstorm, and it's the only place I've been where you're expecting 8 inches of snow and people leave their homes to go to the theater anyway. And they smile and wear their boots. And so I love the people in the Berkshires. And I love that in the summer especially, people have self-selected into the Berkshires really because they love the mountains and they love the arts. And if you ask many people, they could tell you every single night of the week what night they're at Barrington, what night they're at Tanglewood, what night they're at Berkshire Theater Group. They know it and they love it. So it's this group of people that are like diehard arts people, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I love being in the Berkshires, particularly in the wintertime. I mean, the summer to me is a lot of traffic and a lot of arts opportunities. But in the wintertime, when the streets aren't packed with people, it's a vibrant community. And going up to 10 by 10, I've been looking forward to that since last fall. It's my one really great Berkshires theater opportunity in the winter.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I like going around to all the restaurants I can't get into in the summer.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. And one of the other things I like is you have a group of associate artists that have been with Barrington, some for decades or more, who come back and not only do they bring their art to Barrington Stage, but they're great ambassadors of Barrington Stage in the communities that they're performing.
Well, there's amazing people. We had three really key ones perform last summer in Boeing, and that would be Christopher Invar, Mark H. Dold, and Deborah Jo Rupp. And I had done that play for them and for the founding artistic director, Julianne Boyd. And I was really happy that it was such a success. And, we're brewing up a lot of things for the future for those people and some exciting ideas of ways to bring them back. And I love that they're a part of the continued artistic life of the company. Wonderful to be in conversation and in concert with, artists that are on a parallel journey to the one I'm on.
And some of them have really done great work. Beowulf Borat, the scene designer who comes back and forth to Barrington Stage, is doing a lot of fabulous work on Broadway. And Leslie Kritzer, an actress, does a lot of Broadway work. So they're bringing with them their colleagues to Barrington Stage. And I went to an opening of something last year and saw several of them in the audience. They weren't involved in the show at all. And they are so proud to have that affiliation.
Well, Leslie Kritzer, I'm dying to get back. I'm hoping that she'll do a cabaret one of these days. And Beowulf is the great Broadway set designer, and we ask him every summer. And his schedule, luckily for him, is so busy that he can't always come. But they're amazing people, and there's going to be some announcements coming up of some other great associates that are going to be participating in shows and cabarets and other things. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I know that you do a cabaret series every year. That's not been announced yet, but is it on the calendar?
It's not on the calendar yet, but we're going to have a whole series of artists this summer, and I'm thrilled. We're gonna have some great Broadway people. We always do, but I'm shaking it up a little bit, and I'm not ready to say yet. But I have a Metropolitan Opera, a great singer coming in to do some crossover popular music that you will have never seen in a 90-seat cabaret space, and a stand-up comic that I'm introducing, and a lot of other exciting people that I think you're going to want to see this summer.
So people should be checking that website over and over again as you announce additional programming.
Yeah, we'll be announcing more probably at the end of the month, but it's going to be a full summer, and I'm genuinely, the more I do this, the more I just want to program people that only I want to see. And the thought is, if I want to see them and I like them, I hope you probably will too. And it's a good group this summer.
That's great to know. During the off season, as you were planning for this new season, you got to travel. You said you went out to California to see the Joan play. Is there anything that you saw nationally that those of us that travel a little bit for theater ought to know about?
Well, you're catching me 24 hours before I leave for a week in London. So I will have much to report on. But I saw a play, and if I hadn't fully programmed the season already at Barrington, I would have tried to get the rights, off-Broadway, called Liberation by Bess Wall. And I think it's probably one of the best plays I've seen this year, about a group of women in the early 1970s, and it's about women's liberation and many things involving ideology and what happens in their lives. And I just thought it was a pretty remarkable piece of writing. So if you're in New York and Liberation is still playing, I would encourage you to go and see that at the Laura Pels Theater.
Any other recommendations?
There's just so much I'm excited to see on Broadway this spring. The Picture of Dorian Gray, Smash, Glengarry Glen Ross, Lloyd Collins, Ghosts at Lincoln Center Theater, Moby Dick at the Metropolitan Opera. I don't have enough time to see everything that I want to see, and herein lies the conundrum of an avid theater goer. There's never enough nights in the week to see it, and we live and breathe for the next best thing, and then of course the summer will happen, and before we know it, we'll be talking next year.
Exactly. Well, Alan, we're just about out of time. And first of all, I want to thank you for being here on Artsbeat. It's always great to have you as a guest. Second of all, I'm looking forward to seeing you on opening press nights throughout the course of the season. And third, those of you that are listening or watching today, get a glimpse of what Barrington Stage Company is doing in its multiple stages in Pittsfield at Barrington Stage Co.org. So, Alan, we'll see you soon, and we're going to end today's Artsbeat with the signature song from Camelot, If Ever I Would Leave You, from the Lincoln Center production, sung by Jordan Danica. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
If ever I would leave you, it wouldn't be in summer. Seeing you in summer, I never would go. Your hair streaked with sunlight, your lips red as flame, your face with a luster that puts gold to shame. But if I'd ever leave you, it couldn't be in autumn. How I'd leave in autumn, I never would know. I've seen how you sparkle when fall nips the air. I know you in autumn, and I must be there. And could I leave you running merrily through the snow, or on a wintry evening when you catch the fire's glow. If ever I would leave you, how could it be in springtime? Knowing how in spring I'm bewitched by you so. Oh no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never could I leave you at all. If ever I would leave you, how could it be in springtime? Knowing how in spring I'm bewitched by you so. Oh no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never could I leave